T.R.O.N podcast listeners, this is Rashad Woods, your host, and today I have a very special guest today, the embodiment of the American dream from Gambia, and has created a fascinating new app called Trippz, which allows you to go down the memory wormhole and be a little bit nostalgic at the same time. Ebrima Jallow, ladies and gentlemen.
Thanks, Tron. Thanks, Rashad. I'm calling the name of your show because it's it's fascinating when I saw the title of your show. I'm like, that's a very catchy name, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, thanks for having me, man. I'm glad to join you here and talk about my journey on how I built Trippz and all the ins and outs that comes with just building your own technology company when you're not like Facebook, when you're not like TikTok, when you're not like Twitter. It's a different approach. So yeah, I'm glad to join you so we can go down memory lane, if you will.
Well, the same thing is like, when you're trying to do a podcast or where you're trying to do a social media app, it's a very crowded space and there's a lot of imitators and copycatters. And so you don't want to be a flash in the pan. You don't want to look like you're, latching onto a trend. So you have to carve out your own particular space. And it seems like you've done that. Can you tell us a little bit about your educational background? What led you into technology, AI, computer systems, and human connections?
Yeah, so I have a very random way of connecting how I got to the technology space. I first look at the ATM, right? The way it worked. Simple, very sophisticated. And the first time I interacted with it, it's like, wow, you tell it what you need, it delivers exactly what you need. I mean, Rashad, how many times have you said, give me $40 and the ATM give you 60 or 20 or 100? So that had me thinking a lot like, man, well, like what got to the development of this and what got it to this point to position. That's one. And the second thing it also taught me was just the simplicity of user experience, right?
Right.
You don't need to overcomplicate things. You don't need to, under serve it as well. You can do exactly what you ask for, just
Correct.
what the people want, right? So that kind of drew me into just looking at how that's created, drew me into the computer science world, right? I wanted to do a lot of things though in the beginning. I wanted to do architectural drafting. I wanted to do accounting. I wanted to do screenwriting. That's just the fancy way of saying I was a confused man. I probably still am confused.
But that's what life's all about, man.
Yeah, exactly. So when I majored in software development, probably one semester into it, I saw another field called computer forensics, which is what I have a degree in, and I got drawn into it because of the just the investigative nature of it, like looking at cyber crimes and figuring out
Oh man,
prints that
you were
were.
ahead of the curve. You were ahead of the curve.
Yeah. I tried. So then I'm like, wow, that sounds so sci-fi. That sounds like the kind of movies that I like to watch, right?
Right.
I think the one angle that really got me interested is, people that send child pornography over the net and mask it with something else that somebody would not
Yeah.
know. So it is the
Right.
job of a computer forensics analyst to go in and,
Yeah.
uncover that, right? Unmask it,
Right.
decrypt it, and take those people to task, you know. But however, there was an aspect of computer forensics that I didn't quite think is for me, and that is the idea that you have to write a report and probably show up in court to testify. There's just some legal aspect of it. I'm like, I don't think that part of it is exciting. So then after I graduated, I didn't do much with computer forensics. I still gravitated toward software development, just building things, making
Right.
useful things that people can use, can touch, can feel, and create an experience for users.
Yeah, definitely. And so I think that when it comes to computer forensics, there's like these myths that people all they do is solve crimes all day, when in fact it's also about data protection services,
Yeah.
data integrity, stop from hacking. I did a cybersecurity course from IBM online, and it was like, a lot of times, hackers use brute force where they just keep pounding at a server
They
until it
pound.
eventually cracks. You're right. So it's like a flood. It's like a dam. They just keep pounding away at it. And so what I found fascinating about your background is that, you came from Gambia, right? So how did you, what caused you first to actually emigrate to the United States from your background?
Very good question. In Gambia, youth like myself, when you graduate high school, your next step, your most immediate inclination is to travel.
Right.
You
Okay.
don't want to do nothing else other than just like go out there and explore the world.
Yeah.
But for me, I always tell my friends, man, it was just too hot out there, way too hot. Well, I'm telling you, bro, it it was way too hot. Like
Oh
one
my
day
goodness.
when I was going to get a visa, I'm like, man, if I don't get a visa, it was too hot that day. Like it was really hot. So I'm like, man, if I don't get a visa, man, I'm gonna have to deal with this weather. Like, nah, that
Yeah.
can't. I gotta dip out. I
It
got
finally hit you. It finally
yeah,
hit you.
yeah, I got a dip. But also, on the other end of it too, just kind of exploring your capabilities, looking at the other side of the world,
Mhm.
looking at the things that you can do, spread your wings a little bit and
Of
see
course,
when you
for
explore on
sure.
the other end what that's like. That's how I landed in Philadelphia. That's how I was. That's where I was for my first year. I have connections here in Minneapolis. So I live in Minneapolis now with my family.
Right, I saw that. Yeah.
My friends live here. They were like, it's probably better up here. Come check it out. And I haven't been back since.
Minneapolis is a beautiful city, by the way, too. It
Yeah,
really,
you
it
in
truly
Detroit,
is.
right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah,
In
yeah.
Minneapolis, I've had a
I
chance to go
frequent
up there
Detroit.
about 3 or 4 times. Yeah, it's really
Yeah,
nice.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
so you're into computer systems, right? And so I'm imagining you. I can't, even though I'm not a programmer. You're a very, curious individual like myself. So I have to imagine when you're getting computers and when you're getting technologies, you seem like the type of person that has to break something and then put it back together. And then that's just kind of how you're going to figure it out to make sure not that you're just the end user, but that you know how the process actually works and how it's assembled. And so while you're doing that, you decided to become an entrepreneur as well too and created your app Trippz. So please, I researched it a little bit, but for the show itself, tell us about Trippz.
Yeah, so Trips was born out of, a lot of times in the software development world, right? You either are solving a problem that people are going through or you're solving a problem that you are going through, right?
Right.
Those are the two inventive ways to create stuff. So with Trips, I'm a 90s kid, right? Notorious B.I.G., Tupac, Michael Jordan, Mobb Deep, Bone Thugs, you know what I'm saying?
This
So
guy right
I
here.
spent yeah, you know what I'm saying? So I spent a lot of time researching or going back visiting that a lot, right?
Right.
And spend a lot of time on YouTube, more times than I'm supposed to, honestly.
We all do. We all
You know
do.
what I'm saying? Like going down memory lane. So one day I was like, yo, it would probably be better if I just come up with a platform where, people can just visit and share and
Mhm.
archive, but also relive those memories, right?
Of course. That's
So it
beautiful.
wasn't it wasn't I went out and asked people like, hey, what do you like? It was me figuring out there's a need for me for something, and then I went out and built it. And coincidentally though, when I go to YouTube, I go a particular song or whatever sports, Michael Jordan doing the fadeaway with Utah in '98. The comments are always fascinating to me. So I'm like, there's a demand for this. The same thing I'm thinking. There are
Hmm.
people out there that are that are navigating towards that as well. So
Right.
I've sat on the idea though for a long time, right? It wasn't until 2020 during the pandemic,
Awful.
ESPN had a show, very awful, right? ESPN had a show called The Last Dance, Michael Jordan's last year. I don't know if you saw it.
Yes.
And that thing had so much viewership because obviously everybody was home at the time, right? But I think the commentary around it, that's when I sat down, I'm like, you know what? I gotta start building this thing
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
it aligns exactly with what I'm seeing and the
For sure.
people's nostalgic behavior,
Right.
reliving their past, and the many things that we saw that we never knew, like the behind the scenes.
Of
Dennis
course.
Dennis Rodman becoming the first guy to like take a day off on a basketball like during the season. Like I didn't know he invented that.
Yeah.
So I saw the commentary around it. I'm like, yeah, you know what? It's time. I've been sitting on this idea, but just because the appetite for what I'm seeing,
Hmm.
it's probably time to go ahead and build this. And me coming from a business analyst, product owner, product development background, the role of a business analyst is to sit in between people that want to use a product and people that build the product, right? So I'm exposed to both worlds. My job is to understand what Rashad needs, right? From a
Right.
strictly purely user perspective. Rashad
Correct.
is not technology savvy. He doesn't write code. He just wants something. And then
Correct.
I go to developers and say, they don't know what, like a lot of developers don't understand basic user experiences as well. So that's how I kind of.
Well, it's funny. I hate to cut you off, but it's funny you say that because people can gravitate towards what they're good at, right? So, if when you're a software developer, you're like, I got to throw all these fancy codes, and then you can just go down the wormhole of coding, right?
Right.
And then you're like, dude, think about somebody that's just sitting on their couch watching TV that just wants to have an instant moment. And I'm sure you've done your research, which is if something doesn't get somebody's attention in like 7 seconds now,
Right.
you're done.
You're done.
You don't have that luxury that like you did 30 years ago where people are willing to give chance after chance and wait for stuff, even just a page loading on the internet. You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
What is that thing they say? you rarely get a second chance to make a first impression. Is that what they?
Hmm.
Is that the right way?
Absolutely.
But
Yes.
yes, I agree with you. The building process of this, and I had to do my own sort of. I had to evolve as well, because being a staff employee on a technology group versus building my own thing is two different worlds, bro. Like,
Right.
it's not even the
For
same,
sure.
and I think you can appreciate that, right?
Yeah. For
So
sure.
for me, the biggest thing was the way I'm thinking of the idea. How do I really translate it into an app, right?
Right.
Because it's a vast random idea. Like, okay, like build a platform that is gonna be memory based. But
Right.
how exactly do you make it that identity? How do you give it that
Hmm.
identity? That was a tough.
And then you're running into a situation where this is like a bridge generation. It's like a gap, bridge gap center generation, right? So you have, if you're a 90s baby, you
Right.
know what a blockbuster is like. You know what it's like to use the yellow pages. But at the same time, technology didn't come hard for you because you're right in between where the internet was exploding. You know, that circa 99 to like 2006, where everything started converting really to digitally.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you're a teenager or a young adult and you grew right along with it and it became normal. So for you to grasp it, nostalgia, like look at one of the most popular shows out right now is Stranger Things, and there's a reason why it's one of the most, because everybody's like, oh man, this reminds me of Steven Spielberg movies, this reminds me of Stephen King things. So all those people that were 6, 7, 8 years old, now they're watching this and they're 40, 45, and they're like, oh my god, this reminds me of everything that I grew up with.
I'm so glad you mentioned that, because Stranger Things was something that I keep in mind all the time, right?
Right, right.
If you look at Stranger Things, there's got these really nostalgic themes around it.
Mm-hmm.
The whole show, right?
Beautiful show, wonderful
Beautiful
show.
show, right? But if you move past Stranger Things, look at Burger King, look at
Yeah.
McDonald's, look at the
Right.
commercial. Every product today, and that motivated me to build Trippz, which I'll get into here in a little bit. But when I was doing my research during the building process, like, why should I build a nostalgic website? Why should
Right.
I build a nostalgic platform? Right? Just kind of challenging my own assumption. Like,
Mhm.
is it the market ready or is it not? Right? In my research, I found something interesting. There was a Ipsos research that analyzed about 2,000 advertisements,
Mhm.
right? And they found out that the ones that channel nostalgia within the ads force people 2.5 times more to buy stuff than the ones that did not,
Oh
right?
wow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's interesting, because the thing is, if you are a brand, right, and you channel the best way to channel my trust is to channel something that I was fond of in my
Mm-hmm.
younger years,
Mm-hmm.
right? If you go to my Nintendo game, like your PlayStation, to the
Yes.
Walkman, right, to the CD player, you are
Yes.
more likely to sell to me. And the other result that I found is that once you catch people in a nostalgic behavior, they no longer care about the price they spend on the product.
Right. It
You know what I'm
becomes,
saying?
because you're bringing up something that more than likely is a very positive memory of them. You know, it's like how eBay got founded, and I'm paraphrasing this because I looked at how eBay was founded. He like
Mhm.
put up a pen for sale, and he said he went to bed. They said the guy went to bed, didn't think anything of it when he created the platform, and then he said he had all these offers on it, and he asked the guy, he was like, "How the heck? Why do you want to bid this for this particular?" He's like, "I'm a pen collector, and this is very important for me to have this pen, and I don't care about the price of it." So to your point, you know, when you bring up memories with people, it resonates with them. I mean, look at the NFL, for goodness sakes, right? And I don't know if you
Yes,
watch football or not. It's
I
on
watch football a lot.
it's on 7 different platforms and nobody cares. And they know
I thought it was
they can get
17.
right. Like it's on YouTube, and maybe I'm getting the number wrong. It's on Amazon, it's on Fox, it's on
So many.
CBS, it's on ESPN, and it's on Netflix, right? And I'm probably missing one or two. And it does not matter.
YouTube.
Literally does they don't people don't even think twice of subscribing to it all.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. You know, you got a good point there. When you really look into this, right? Somebody asked me one time, because I told them the Trippz platform is not meant to be, and they thought I was shooting myself in the foot when I said it's not meant to be addictive.
Mm-hmm.
And what I mean by that is, naturally, you're not meant to be addicted to your memories. You just
Right.
visit them every once in a while, because the present world around you is moving too fast, right?
Correct.
If you, if people always say, "Man, I miss the good old days," I don't think that's because the good old days were better.
Yeah.
It's just that today the environment around them is changing so quick.
Right.
And so as a human being, you are always forced to think that your yesterday life was better. It happens to all of
Correct.
us, right? Every once in a while you say, I miss when times were simple. Let me ask you a question, Rashad. You think today is simple, like right now?
I think that no, I'll be honest with you. I think it is, and that's because things are accessible at a quicker mat. Like this is just my opinion, but I
Mm-hmm.
think that things that you want to get are more accessible than ever before. Like if you want to order food, you
Mm-hmm.
don't have to go through the yellow pages, et cetera, et cetera. If you want to get your items delivered, I think maybe a better terminology is things are more accessible to your immediate needs than they are
Right.
necessarily simpler. Things are complex, but I think there's some really great businesses out there that are trying to take the complexity out of the end of the person and put
Right.
it more because they want fast transactions, right? They want quick transactions. Sometimes
Yeah.
it's at the detriment, right? They're like, if people can just check out their own groceries, that problem be solved. Well, checking out your own groceries sucks, right?
Mm-hmm.
It absolutely, because
Yeah.
you don't have anything goes wrong during that transaction. You're waving the person down, you're already upset, and then your emotions start getting a certain way. So I think
Yeah.
accessibility as opposed to simpler is probably a better way to describe
Yeah. I asked the question because I'm sitting here thinking in 20, 30 years, we're going to be looking back to them and be like, man, we missed the simpler times.
it.
You know what I'm saying? Like, we're going to look at 2025 as a time that was simple when social media is like growing so fast and the trends, which brings me to a point. Speaking of trends, right? The differentiation between trips, and for everybody watching, trips is not trip, it's trippz, because I'm thinking multiple trips down memory lane, right? So I
Hmm.
need to clarify that. So it's not, don't go to the app store looking for trips, look for
Hmm.
trippz.
Good note. Good note to make.
But I'm saying that to say that, with the differentiation model, right? When we were building this, when I sit with the team, the thing that I like to remind them mostly is the trips platform should be of experience and discovery all at the same time,
Right.
right?
Right.
Because for someone who was not born in the 70s or born in the early 2000s or 90s,
Completely
you
different
can have
perspective.
your own memory lane, but you can start seeing things like, P-Funk, Parliament Funkadelic. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Like you're discovering new things. George Clinton getting on stage. I watched a video where George Clinton was way ahead of his time. The technological things that we're doing on stage in the
Yes.
70s, like 3D. They were saying 3D back then. I thought 3D
For
was like
sure.
was like
Yeah.
right now.
Right. Well, the ironic part too is that even like wanting to see a movie now, right? Like you have the movie that's spoiled for you if you go on YouTube or if you Google it, like a movie ending. Like you
Hmm.
have to be very cognizant and not get a movie spoiled for you because you could just go to like Google News and it can be the first headline right there, right? And you're like,
Yeah.
dang, I wasn't even looking for that, and the next, a really good ending was spoiled. So or if you wanted to see a movie, you would have to watch the trailer, maybe on the cassette, the video, the VHS, or you'd have to see it in the theater. But then the movie now can be spoiled for you because 3/4 of the movie is already told in the trailer that you saw. So
Yeah.
sometimes you have to like remove yourself from the current events. Be like, I need to purposely stay away from anything because I actually want to experience something now, as opposed to have it being spoiled in advance for me.
Which is crazy because you just said something that reminded me of back in, I don't know, '05, '06. I used to come home to know the score of the basketball game. Like I
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't know. I would be at work and I wouldn't know what the score was. Right?
Mm-hmm.
If the Sixers are playing with the Lakers, I'm like, man, I like when I get home, and it didn't occur to me to watch a replay because like, I watch the highlights on ESPN. But isn't it amazing? Just in a matter of 20 years, like you can't wait. You don't have to get home to know what's happening. Like
Not at all.
you get
Not
it
at
in
all.
real time. But I remember getting home to know what the game score was. Like as I'm talking here, I'm thinking about this, like it's striking me as really fascinating. And that's what I was pointing out about the differentiation between, people ask me like, why can I just go to Facebook and post a memory? Keep in mind, Facebook do have a memory feature. If you took a picture last year and today is
Right.
that anniversary, you see, or on this day last year you took this picture. But that's just a feature, right? What
Correct.
we're doing at Trips is expanding and making it the product itself, right? The TikToks of the world, the Instagram of the world, they prioritize today, right? Whereas with Trips, we prioritize that journey, right? You can
Mm-hmm.
start from looking at it from streaming. Today we stream music. Before we stream music, we had the iPod. Before we had the
Right.
iPad, we had the CD player. Before we had the CD player, we had the
Right.
cassette tape. Before we had the
Right.
cassette, we had the vinyl.
Right.
Before we had the
Right.
vinyl, we had just radio. What happened before
Exactly.
radio? So I like to think in that realm. My fascination, you asked earlier, like what drove me into this. I like to think of things that happened way before I was born. I like to
Of
sit here and
course. Of
imagine,
course.
like, wow, what did they do? Like I found out the point about music. People before this, you have to go out and watch the music.
Hmm.
You couldn't listen to it on any device. You had to. That was the only way to listen to music.
And if you were a terrible singer or artist, you couldn't hide behind anything else. So you had to
No,
be the real. I'm not saying that people weren't untalented back then,
I'm
but you
sure there
had
were
to
a lot of
actually
ones.
be able to actually perform what people said you could perform. There was no audio tune or no sort of which if you they were going to find out if you were the real deal,
Yeah,
essentially.
yeah, exactly. And we have this feature on the app where we call it the journey. So the way we operate is just you want to post something, a particular category, you want to do throwback technology, you want to post about musical memories, sports, legendary sports, fashion. I'm sure you had some baggages in the '90s that you probably don't want the crowd to see anymore. But
Well,
there's a category that I'm fascinated by. It's called the journey, right?
mhm.
We went back and forth between naming it. Do we call it the becoming or the journey? And what that
Right,
category means is, so let's take you, Rashad, for instance. You got a podcast, popular
right,
podcast, people are listening, but we only see your popular podcast.
right,
We don't know what got you, how you got to this journey, right? We don't
for
know how
sure.
you got here. And I'm sure
Right, right,
you've had to do a lot of sacrifices, a lot of ins and outs. And what the journey does is to say, hey, Rashad, we see the successful part of your life, but could you walk
right.
us down memory lane?
That's awesome.
You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Like, because we just see the flash, right? We don't know how you got here. So
Right,
someone like Jeff Bezos, we don't know how they got here, but it would be nice if they can walk us down memory lane and say,
right.
here's why I almost gave up. As you know, this podcast, I'm sure there's a lot of times you were like, man, is this really what I want to
For
do?
sure.
No,
Every
but
day.
the perseverance gets you there.
I think the most correct, and then to your point is that I'm thinking in my head too how your podcast could grow. I mean, your podcast, excuse me, your platform could grow because obviously that's your space, not mine. But if you had a merchandise store of nostalgic materials that people could purchase things, whether it's
Don't give it
movies,
away now. Don't give it away now.
I'm sorry, I'm
But
sorry.
no, go ahead, because I'm about to add something to that.
Yeah, I was just thinking, like, for people who are going down the memory lanes, if they wanted to buy boom boxes, if they wanted to buy Nintendos, if they wanted to buy certain movie posters, right? So that way it could be integrated into their memory bank and make it a consumer experience. Because, most of the people that I'm sure that you're aiming for are between 38 to 50. So it's not like they're that old, right?
Hmm.
And for people who are 17, 18, if you're fortunate enough, you'll reach those ages and you got to deal with it.
Right, right. I'm so glad you mentioned that because when I was thinking of this app idea, I paused on it because there was a commercial aspect of it that I'm like, they gotta go hand in hand, right? I gotta find a way to make money out of it, right? So one day, it was July 4th, 2022, I took a walk to the lake and I'm walking, I'm thinking like, and then it clicked like, oh, you need to do this, do that. Well, I
Right.
got back in my car, went home so that I don't forget what I'm thinking about. That was
Mm-hmm.
the first day I put the idea on paper. But
Good, good.
the future vision of this platform, we're thinking of partnerships, branding. At this point, we'll focus on the user growth, but
Right.
let's be assured we're thinking of a lot of different fascinating things right now, especially on
Right.
the advertising end. This might be the first platform where you will see people actually go to the ad, right?
Right.
Without
Yeah.
giving too much away on how we're
Of
thinking of it.
course. Of
Um,
course.
the way I'm thinking of the way advertising works. When you're watching YouTube and your ad come in, you're 90% likely to click out of the ad, right? What if you don't have to do that? What if it's the
Right.
opposite, right? That's how
For
we're
sure.
thinking of many things on the commercial front. To your point earlier, yes, we do have those,
Yeah.
and keep following, and you will see one day we're gonna
Yeah.
come back to this show on
Of
a
course. I'm
nostalgic
looking forward to it.
on a memory lane, and we're gonna be like, yo, Rashad,
Well,
remember when we're talking
yeah.
about this? What do you think now, right?
Well, it's just a natural evolution. And more importantly, it's that you know the lane that you're in. This is me just from a user experience that was like, man, if I'm already on here, I would love to see like a poster of like a a Ghostbusters poster or a, Who Framed Roger Rabbit kind of poster that's in there, like,
Yeah.
oh man, this is available. This reminded me of my childhood.
Yeah.
So where can people, I always ask this of all my guests because I think, they don't need me. They've never needed me. I'm just a person that's just fortunate enough to talk to you all. How can people find Ebrima Jallow?
I'm on Twitter. Fulani Dude, Fulani Dude. I don't need to spell dude, but I'm on Twitter. I'm on Instagram, Fulani Dude as
Yeah.
well. I'm on LinkedIn. Check me out. I'm on Facebook, Ebrima Jallow, and the app, both
Okay.
platforms, iOS, Android, and we have a website as well, www.gettrippz.com.
Right.
On there, you can walk your way through the app and just kind of look at the theme of what we have. So,
Oh man, and I think I always say this to almost all of my guests, but I don't think a half an hour does justice to what you actually are accomplishing and continue to accomplish. But I'm just fortunate enough to be able to get a small fraction of what you're able, out of your time and what you're able to do and accomplish. And I think that for what you're doing, it resonates with somebody like me because, to be honest with you, I'm a child of the same era, and it spurs some really good memories and thoughts. And I hope that I'm gonna download it and have a chance to really dive into it myself.
yeah, and one last point, you talked about the target age, right? Basically, we're
Mhm.
targeting anybody that whose brain is large enough to carry
Right.
some memories. You could be 20
Right.
and you start thinking about when you were 15. You could
Of
be 25.
course, of course.
You know what I'm saying? Like it peaks the more
Yeah,
you grow. But one
absolutely.
thing, Rashad, man, I watched your show, man. I really appreciate the angle you take, the respectful
Mhm.
tone, the what you extract out of people. I enjoyed your episode with what's her name? I think it's Demi
Yes.
Demi or
Mhm.
something like that. It's
Okay.
Ethiopian lady, restaurateur. Very, very interesting, man. Just talking about her journey and shedding light on what's
Yes.
the things
Yes.
you want to do and the things she been through.
That was a beautiful story. It was very, very heartwarming, and I'm sure it resonated very closely with you as well too.
Yeah,
Similar background and things like that. And so that was touching, and it was really good for her to share her story with
yeah,
me and get a chance to really actually be involved with that. And so I
for
really,
sure.
really, really take that to heart. It's Zed Wamadou. That's what her name was.
Zed, not
Zed
Demi.
Wamadou.
Zed, Zed.
Zed. Yes. So her
Sorry,
story
yeah.
was very great, and
But you
I'm
know,
sure nothing.
the stories can be much more beautiful if the host is able to extract it, right? And I think you do a great job. I watched that whole thing, like, wow. You're learning as you go. So.
Oh,
But yeah,
man,
man, I appreciate it, man. Thanks for having me around, and we'll get back to this again at some
very
point.
much, very much appreciate you, sir, and best success to you.
Cool. Thanks, man.